let's look at the technical side of things first though. So we have a guitar. Now obviously an electric is going to be the most easiest way to get into slide playing. Now we know that you have what's called frets, metal wire along the fretboard. What you're actually doing here with the strings is that a string at a certain length is a certain note. The frets obviously are shortening the length of the string, thus changing the pitch of the note you're playing. Now when you take that approach to slide playing, you are effectively doing the same thing as a fret wire. You are changing the length of the string with your slide along the fretboard. When you do that, you are changing the note of the string. Now, when you apply the slide, it's obviously very different to fretting with your fingers. We need to talk about how to use this little guy, where to use it, and what to do. The slide itself, now obviously I've got a really big slide. I do have a smaller slide for my little finger as well. Most traditional players will stick it on the little finger, and the reason being obviously you can still play chords. Now, using the slide, so say you get the type of slide you're after, glass, gives you a nice sound, steel, just as good. Pop it on the desired finger, make sure it fits. It should feel snug. Now this is a little bit loose, but it's loose enough that if I do that, it will, with a little bit of wiggling, come off. That's probably about where you want. If it's completely tight, what will happen is your finger will get warm, expand, you won't get the bastard off, so it hurts, trust me. When you got the slide you're after, let's talk about placement. So let's look at the slide here. Now, I want you to imagine there is a center line running down the middle of the slide. It should be very much parallel with the very middle of your fingertip. So imagine a very center of gravity line along the middle of the nail, all the way down, through the finger, through the slide, down that very point. Perfect middle. Don't, like I just did. Now, that is the only part of the slide that is touching the strings. That very, very little, tiny little, not even a millimeter thick line is all you're looking at. That line should be dead center with a similar center line of the fret wire that you're looking at. So my point I'm making here is that we don't put the slide on a spot where you put your fingers. The slide has to go right over the very center of the fret wire of the note that you're playing. So if I'm wanting to play an F, a little bit of volume, you can hear it. I might be putting my finger here, but I'll be putting my slide right on the center line of the first fret. Because when you press down, obviously that's the part where it's making contact. So you've got to do the same thing. That's probably the most important thing that puts a lot of people off. It's obviously a little bit different to what you're used to, especially if you're a beginner. Now, that's pretty much it in terms of placement. We've got to talk about pressure now. You will get difference in sound depending on the pressure you make. Sometimes these can be desirable. The standard thing I would say is that you're not moving the string in any way, shape or form. So you apply enough pressure to the point where you'll get a sound, so it won't be like that's an ugly sound. But if you're making enough sound to go, obviously that's where you want. And it's a very subtle difference, and it will depend on the guitar, the slide, and even your grip as to how to do it. My tip here would definitely be to make sure that your thumb, as always, is your anchor point. Thumb is used to anchor your wrist up and hold the correct position. Very important. Use your thumb, people. But you just need to experiment until you get the sound that you're after. So basically the key point to remember there is don't press the strings down. You're not applying pressure. You're simply holding the slide to that point where you're not getting a buzzing sound, you're just getting a that. Okay. Tuning. I play slide in just standard open tuning. Occasionally, as I have a few guitars, I will retune one to open E and do some fun stuff there. Mostly blues, of course, which, you know, blues or rock is sort of what slide's all about, really. With slide guitar, the idea is that if you know your scales very well, you can open tune to, say, a G and play a song that's in G. You would then just move you can strum the entire thing if you wanted to, and then for your solo, obviously you reposition your notes to what you've raised or lowered. In this case, if it's G, you know, if you're in the G chord, then obviously you've got a G note instead of an E here and a G note instead of an E there, so you got to adjust accordingly, of course. So experiment with your tunings. You can obviously do your research online, find out what songs require it, have a go, sounds that you can make with a slide. I'm just going to demonstrate a few now. Hopefully, you can. Let's just look at a simple slide in. You'd usually slide in pretty much from where you'd actually finger the note with your fingers to that fret wire. Is usually enough for a very subtle. So. Very cool. Or you go about a tone out, depending on what you're playing and where you're playing it from, and you'll learn what sounds right and wrong. Experiment a bit. So, for example, I'm going to the G note here, so I'll be. So I've actually pretty much slid from semitone in. Now, if I went from a full tone. Not quite right. However, if I did that from, say, here to the A, which I did, more emphasis. So I'm doing a 12-bar blues. You know, it's more cool. Then you do it backwards. So, or say from the B. So from a fret or tone, a semitone or a tone higher. The other one is, another one is obviously when you are sliding in and out, you don't actually have to use your right hand to pluck a note. You can just, to get that, you know, cool rhythm / sound, I guess. Obviously, just the sound of an abrasive metal object going across the strings will cause some noise. Hammer-ons, pull-offs. Okay, same thing you do. Obviously, you're just using your slide. So remembering center line down the middle of your slide, that point on the actual fret wire. Play the single note with your, with the right hand as per normal. Do the hammer-on, pull-off as per normal, but with a slide. Now, that sound I'm getting there is basically just right hand. So I'm just basically playing the B string and then the E string alternative. Right. So I might lead in with the B string and then pluck the A string as I come out and just let it ring. That's all there is to it. It's not really much. It's more sort of smoke and mirrors, really. Now harmonics. Sure, your 12th fret right here. Why don't you use an artificial harmonic with your right hand? So I use the side of my thumb there. You basically want to position your thumb over. For me, it's directly over the first part of my humbucker here, but the 24th fret position, and just try it again. I'm not on the best pickup for it though, but with the slide, it's letting it ring. I've got the volume down way low so we don't blast your ears. But that's basically where you would do it, and then you can alternate. Now it's a very quick rundown. Obviously there's a few more things that we can look at, but I hope that at least gives you enough to try with, and wish you all the best of luck, and obviously I'll post some more videos if anyone has any questions. Thanks.